Hello friends, and welcome to another episode of Team Jesus Outdoors. I know for many of you this is just, like myself, this is just a crazy time. I'll be 50 years old this year, and this is the first time in my life that I've experienced anything of the magnitude of what we're going through right now with this whole virus situation. And at least for those of you that are in Michigan right now, and I'm not sure about our brothers in the surrounding states, but at least for those of you that are in Michigan right now, we're pretty much grounded, with the exception of kayakers or guys paddling a canoe. We're pretty much grounded from fishing. I believe that we can still legitimately be shore fishing. I'm going to look that up because I may have to give that a little try this weekend. The normal drag the boat down to the river and go jig for a limit of walleye, that sort of thing, that's done for right now. With just less than 2 weeks left of this stay-at-home order, which I am really praying is lifted at the end of April, I find myself out here in the garage a lot, struggling to try to figure out what to do just to keep from going bonkers. I know a week or two ago we talked about tackle prep. I know that most of you guys are walleye fishermen, but I know that a fair number of you also chase other species. Personally, I do pretty close to an equal amount of walleye fishing and bass fishing. And honestly, truth be told, bass fishing is probably my most sincere passion in the outdoors. So one of the things that I do every winter, I take a couple rods at a time. I take the reel off, I clean the reel, lube up the reel if it needs it. I put fresh line on the reel, and then typically I'll tie a jig on and make a few pitches with it just to make sure that I've got the line back on the reel properly. Make sure the brakes are set properly and everything. This right here is an old Strike King jig that I haven't actually thrown for bass in a long time, but I leave it out here in the garage to just pitch around a little bit when I'm trying to get the feel for a new rod or trying to break in a new reel, or if I'm just bored. And I also find that it's good to, pitching a jig or pitching a Texas rig, it's really all about muscle memory. So it kind of helps quite a bit during the off season to just pitch a jig around a little bit, just to keep that muscle memory, so that you're not backlashing every 15 minutes when you get on the water in the springtime. So that's kind of a lot of what I've been doing just to kill time over the last week or so since this most recent order was issued. I've tied up some extra stinger hooks. I've gone through my tackle bag 10, 15 times until there's not a single jig out of place or a single soft plastic bait out of place. But hey guys, hopefully we are back on the water real soon. And one thing I think that we really all need to get our arms around, I'm expecting that when we first get allowed to go back on the water, we're probably first going to be released back on the water with some social distancing restrictions. And we've all witnessed on Facebook over the last few weeks that gets a lot of guys pretty fired up. Heck, I'm one of those guys, I have a tendency to fly off the handle kind of quick myself. Hey, but I'm here to promote the idea, and quite frankly, just to beg you guys, if we are released back in the water here in the next couple of weeks or so, and we are released back to the water with some social distancing restrictions, guys, we absolutely have to comply with those restrictions. There is no room for the lone wolf mentality. Nobody's going to tell me what to do. I have rights. There's just no room for that mentality. When we are allowed back on the water, we really need to comply with any restrictions that are placed upon us, not only for the good of the community, but just so we don't get slapped with another order that says we can't use our motorboats or any other sort of crazy restriction. So hey, I really hope that you guys will give that some thought, and that you guys will grit your teeth and bear it and comply with whatever restrictions we are handed until the authorities have this epidemic under control. Believe me when I say that that Friday that I read the executive order, I was one of the first ones to take to social media and vent. I was just absolutely livid. I was beside myself for the first 2 days. I was so furious I could hardly think straight. And not that I have any respect for our governor to begin with, but I got to tell you, a lot of my anger was directed towards our governor. So by the time I calmed down a little bit to think straight, quite honestly, I started to feel a little bit on the guilty side. And then ironically enough, or by the providence of God more likely, the verse of the day today in the YouVersion Bible app is John 13:34. And this is Jesus speaking in the book of John. This is Jesus being quoted in the book of John. And he says, "A new commandment that I give to you, that you love one another, even as I have loved you, that you also love one another." Friends, it doesn't get a whole lot clearer than that. If our intention is to be following Christ and trying to mimic the example of Christ, we cannot let ourselves be clouded by anger. We have to love one another like Christ loved the church, like Christ loved each one of us enough to die for us. I encourage each of you to take that to heart, give that some thought. And if it is your desire to be Christ-like, and I certainly hope it is for every one of you, but if it is your desire to be a follower of Christ, I hope that you will take that verse to heart. And let me tell you, it's not easy. I've been a follower of Christ for the last 30 years, more than 30 years. And I'll be the first to admit that I still struggle to fulfill that. Jesus taught that the two most important commandments is to love God with all our heart, all our soul, and to love our neighbor as ourselves. But followers of Christ are to love one another, even those that do wrong by us, even those that are our enemies, even our political enemies. We are to be loving them and praying for them daily. Frankly, a true follower of Christ learns to love those people more than themselves. I'm still a work in progress. I'm not there yet, I can promise you that. All of my brothers in Christ out there, that is my challenge for you this week, at this particular season in our life, at this crazy virus epidemic. I challenge you guys to learn to love one another as Christ loved us, as Christ loved the church. Guys, I hope we're back on the water soon. God bless. Tight lines. We'll see you on the